One Piece chapter 1002. Now, this chapter was pretty much an all-out war with every supernova surprisingly working together in coordination to attack Kaido. Every fighter seems to have a role to play, and it's very interesting seeing all 5 of them going all out, because I think this is going to open up a lot of people's eyes and give us a clear glimpse as to where these supernovas are in terms of strength. And right now, these guys are looking amazing. Obviously, there was 2 individuals that was highlighted in this chapter, and that was Zoro and Luffy. Granted, we did get to see Law, Killer, and Kid use attacks, but Big Mom and Kaido, as of right now, are very weary of Zoro and Luffy right now. We knew Enma was going to play a huge role in this fight, but now I think it's a lot bigger than a sword that simply forces Rio out of you, right? This chapter implies a lot of new aspects of Enma, and with Luffy, we also have new things pertaining to his form in Gear Force, with the possibility of him using Rio in ways that we haven't seen before. Now, I do want to say that this was a complete battle chapter with no exposition on anything else other than the fight itself. In terms of action, I would definitely say that it surpassed the previous chapter by a huge margin, and it's honestly amazing seeing all the supernovas fight together. Again, very reminiscent of Stampede if you've seen Stampede. However, in this case, they're dealing with 2 top tiers. Kaido seems to be the main focus though. Now, Kaido going back into full transformation was something that I didn't think was necessary, but I'm starting to see why he uses this form a lot, even though he's basically a huge target for the supernovas right now. This form gives Kaido a lot of AoE in terms of affecting multiple individuals at once, and this is especially good for Kaido because he's not dealing with swordsmen like he did with the scabbards, but with Devil Fruit users who come with a variety of abilities that could honestly be detrimental to him if he goes into base form. Something that I've also noticed is that Kaido's dragon form is a tank. He took so many attacks in this chapter, but it doesn't seem to do all that much, or at least notable damage, right? Which tells me that the attack potency of the supernovas is still lacking. However, there was one person that Kaido had to dodge in this chapter, and that person was none other than Zoro. I'm sure that Zoro fanboys are going crazy right now. And talking about Zoro, Zoro's portrayal in this chapter was pretty huge. I could even argue that he had the biggest portrayal amongst the supernovas. First of all, I must say that all the supernovas were exuding some badass energy in this chapter, and Zoro being one of them. But we come to find out that Zoro's attack with Enma charged up is something that even Kaido himself, the walking tank of the verse, has to dodge. And this is really impressive. Kaido has always been viewed in the light as being the most durable character in the series, but the fact that he had to dodge Zoro's attacks speaks massively on Zoro's attack potential with Enma, if not the highest potential amongst the supernovas right now. And this was something that even Big Mom pointed out to Kaido, and even Kaido states that he sensed Odin within that blade. And again, this could easily tie into the inherited will, something that we saw with the scabbards back when they initiated the battle with Kaido, right? But Enma is looking more like a blade that doesn't only just force the user's Ryo, right? It seems like some of Odin's residual will is still within the blade, and a will that will not be quenched until Kaido is defeated. People have debated if Enma was a power-up, but I think this chapter confirms that it is, at least in terms of it having residual Ryo from Odin, right? The inherited will has played a huge part in this battle, and it's very obvious that we're seeing it play here with Enma as well. Interestingly, this attack was a one-sword style, meaning it was a slash powered by only one of Zoro's blades. Big Mom and Kaido put a huge emphasis on Enma being a very special blade. Now, what I do want to see is if Zoro is capable of a similar feat with the other swords. Hopefully, Oda can expand more on Enma in this battle, as it has some plot value in terms of Kaido's history with Odin. But that was amazing from Zoro. Best portrayal so far from the supernovas in this chapter, even above Luffy to some degree, right? Now, Law was also someone that was very sharp on his feet as well, and that is to be expected given how versatile his ability is. And not even that, Law is someone that goes for the kill when he can, and honestly, that's what he showed in this chapter, as well as being the best support that anyone can wish for in a battle like this. Again, if you've seen Stampede, there is a specific scene where Law teleports everyone to attack Bullet in a single spot. I think something similar will happen with Kaido in the upcoming chapters. Now, Law right of the bat uses his strongest attack yet, Gamma Knife, and as we expected, was something that was able to counter Kaido's durability, as mentioned by Kaido in this chapter. And honestly, this is telling us that Ryo isn't the only thing that can damage him, honestly. Some Devil Fruit abilities have the potential to work on him, and the fact that Law used one of his strongest attacks in the beginning of this fight tells me that he has more techniques that we don't know about yet. And now, honestly, I think this is the case for most supernovas as well, which then brings me to Kid. So far, Kid is the only one so far far that hasn't shown much apart from the usual Gibson skill sets that he's shown so far. Even Killer to some degree showed that he was able to hurt Kaido from the inside, and Killer seemingly has a better portrayal than Kid in this chapter. Now, I'm not sure how he was able to do that, but the fact that Killer had somewhat of a better showing in this chapter leads me to believe that Oda is still holding back on Kid in terms of showing something new that can affect Kaido. Now, I do think that Kid has Ryo because I feel like given the nature of his Devil Fruit dealing with metals, and given that I think he's capable of putting ornament haki on his weapons, that by default makes Kid a Ryo user. Now, is he able to output his Ryo on the same level as that of Zoro? Probably not, but he can easily compensate with the overwhelming nature of his Devil Fruit ability. And I also believe that Kid is awakened, and currently the only awakened supernova as of right now. That would sort of push his portrayal closer to Luffy, given that Luffy has all these abilities at his disposal, right? Luffy has abilities that he himself only has in this battle, and I think Kid is going to be the other person that's going to have an ability that no one else has, because Kid's showing in this chapter was probably the weakest out of all the supernovas. I mean, even Killer had a better feat. Now, moving on to Luffy, and of course the main dish of the chapter, and again, Luffy did not disappoint as always. Now, first and foremost, Gear 4th as a whole just seems massively stronger, not even just in terms of Ryo, but in physical strength as well. Luffy's training with the sea stone cuffs back in Udon, I think we're seeing it come into fruition here, and judging by how often he's gone out of Gear 4th since the beginning of the raid, tells me that Gear 4th is a form that's very close to being perfected to the point where he can use it indefinitely with no time limit, right? However, we know Luffy tends to go overboard with certain things. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new gear that uses even more haki, specifically advanced haki, and I think we saw a glimpse of that in this chapter. Now, first and foremost, Luffy used a lot of attacks in this chapter. We actually got to see a Kong Gatling, which is similar to the Kong Organ, but seems to be a stronger variation of it, perhaps because this version has Ryuo in it. Now, my question here is if Luffy is using advanced armament in all of his attacks. Now, one would imagine he has to, because that's the only way he's been able to hurt Kaido so far. But Kaido so far seems to be eating a lot of the attacks coming his way and recovering quite quickly, again, which could be an effect of him being a Zoan. And so durability isn't the only factor here, but also endurance. Hurting Kaido is one thing, but hurting Kaido enough to the point where it does major damage is another. And you also have to worry about how much Kaido can endure. We know that he's able to endure all sorts of torture and stuff like that. So Kaido might be enjoying this right now, actually, honestly, because it's been a very long time since Kaido has actually had some sort of challenge, right? But regardless, this was a very impressive showing by Luffy in this chapter. We also see Luffy having the ability to not be affected by the elements. Lightning is understandable because he's rubber, but we literally see him tank a Boro Blast from Kaido unaffected. I think it's very likely that the defensive Ryo played a role here, and the anime also sort of spoiled that, but it seems like Luffy is using Ryo around his body. Now, Kaido seems surprised about that, which makes me think that it could be a lot more than Ryo being used here. I think I might have an idea on what's really going on here, but I'll leave that for another video because I think there's a lot to be said here. Now, Big Mom was also very impressive in this chapter. Even though she was sort of on the sidelines, she was supporting Kaido for the most part, given that she's not really the main target of the battle, right? We get to see her use her homies to an extent that we haven't seen before, in which Zeus seems to be operating on an island-wide scale, which was very impressive because this attack kept all the supernovas at bay. Literally, no one could do anything. But I'm very interested into seeing how Big Mom moves as the battle progresses, because she's a huge wild card in all of this. But this chapter was a chapter that all One Piece fans can enjoy because fights are very scarce in One Piece. And the fact that Oda is dedicating an entire chapter without moving elsewhere is also amazing. And I will say that he's definitely delivering with the supernovas as well as with the Yonkos. It doesn't seem like the Yonkos have kicked into gear yet, but they're definitely getting there. Kaido's hybrid transformation will be one for the books when it does happen, and might be the first showing of a Yonko at full strength. That's honestly a chapter that I'm looking forward to. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you guys think. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folk later. Peace.